Good evening. Welcome to the April 13th Clifton Park Town Board meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Teresa, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Whalen?
Here.
Councilwoman Standard? Here. Councilman Romano?
Here.
Councilwoman Walloway? Here. Supervisor Barrett?
Here. Okay, everybody on the town board is present this evening. And I just want to go through a few communications and announcements. We at the last meeting, last Monday night, we talked in great detail about the golf course, all the work that we were doing to get it open under the new guidance that was provided by New York State and others. After getting everything in place that we talked about, you can sign up to play online. We had tee times, which we don't normally do, and eliminated the pins, eliminated the ball going into the cup, eliminated the use of pull cards. We completely eliminated the need for a golfer to interact with the attendant, so on and so forth. And it worked very well for a few days. And then new guidance came out Monday morning that said that all golf courses must close. So we closed the course right away, and it hasn't been open since. So so that's where it stands now. And we'll open it as soon as we can, as soon as we receive guidance from New York State that we can indeed open. I believe the initial time frame that was floated by the governor in New York State was the end of the month. So we'll see where things stand at that point. The workforce reductions that we are currently working under, and they are substantial. And I appreciate everybody getting the work done each day. I understand it's under difficult conditions, but those workforce reductions were mandated by New York State. They will be, they will continue as is through April 29th. So the current skeleton crew that we have here in Town Hall, and then Highway and Buildings and Grounds are at about half strength each day. That'll continue through the 29th. We hope to have further direction and guidance from New York State as soon as possible before that date, although the governor has been talking recently, just in the last, I guess, day, about wanting to work towards getting the state back open. So it's just going to necessitate that we continue to be flexible and maintain the ability to alter operational standards in very little time. We've done that so far. We just need to prepare to maintain that stance for what could be months. We'll see what happens. We continue to serve seniors in our community with expanded services since the beginning of the public health emergency. We continue with grocery delivery services for seniors, and I want to thank everybody here that is working hard on that, and our volunteers are just fantastic to do that. Can't thank them enough. We had a second food drive Friday for Captain, and we were thrilled with the amount of food and non-perishable items that we collected in the first collection a little over 2 weeks ago. And I think we collected just as much the second time. And the generosity of this community in so many ways just continues to give us all hope and certainly continued love for this community. and everybody pulling together to get the job done and help their fellow neighbor in need. So we handed over $430 to Captain today as well. People donated checks and cash on Friday, along with a whole bunch of food and non-perishables. The whole large room in the Clifton Park Senior Community Center is full. There's 15 or 16 tables, just stacked with your donations. So thank you, everybody, so much. Captain will continue to draw down on those new supplies. Now that I believe the first collection, they've taken everything at this point. So as we get low again on inventory, we'll have another collection, and appreciate your continued generosity. To that end, we have more and more businesses stepping up to assist people in our community. Spritz Car Wash, the nearest one is right up the road here on 146. They donated 100 car washes that we could give away to volunteers that are doing grocery shopping for seniors and involved with other programs where we're serving people in the community. So nice, thank you. It's their deluxe package. So it's about a $13 value. So again, incredibly generous of Spritz Car Wash. So I want to thank them, and what a nice token of thank you to a volunteer. One business that's really gone above and beyond anybody's possible expectation, and that's Scotch Rifles in Ravenswood. And just amazing how that's all come together with the help of volunteers. And I'll ask Mrs. Standart to talk about that. Had a big day yesterday, that's for sure. And if you could give us some details on that to everybody.
Thank you. Easter Sunday yesterday was a phenomenal day. Scotch Rifles from Ravenswood donated 100 meals to be delivered throughout Clifton Park. And I can tell you, every single household that received a meal was beyond grateful. Just that simple gesture was really makes all the difference to these isolated folks who are very uncertain during these times. Ravenswood has been delivering now for about 2 weeks. Feels a little bit longer, but it's been 2 weeks now. And so I decided to look on our list and calculate all that they have donated. To date, they have donated 210 meals in 2 weeks, and that is a significant number.
And counting.
And counting, we've got 25 going out tomorrow.
Yeah.
But that's a significant donation. So that's a lot out of their pocket. They've served 90 households, and with those meal deliveries. We have 117 volunteers signed up. Those volunteers have been making phone calls, talking to our lonely seniors and residents who just need a friendly voice on the other end of the line. Councilwoman Wallowit has been working on that as well, so thank you for that. I know a lot of people have been very, very happy just to hear your voice on the other end of the line. Our volunteers, there are also 24 grocery shopping trips have been made and groceries delivered. And like I said, we've had 210 meals delivered from these volunteers. And they've also stepped up with a food drive and making sure that they come to donate and that they share the information about the food drive and coming to help us. So the volunteers have stepped up, our community has stepped up. It's really been a tremendous operation from beginning to end, and people just want to help and make sure that our community is taken well care of. In addition to our efforts during the crisis, we have, as we mentioned last week, put our cleanup day on hold. Well, not really on hold, but we have kind of changed it a little bit. Our parks and preserves and trails are still open. Of course, playgrounds, tennis courts, and basketball courts are closed. But with the parks preserves and trails still open and folks still visiting those locations, some have decided to clean up those areas when they take their families out to enjoy that open space. And right now we have about 10 families who have participated in this cleanup activity. We do provide bags for them. They're available here at Town Hall. And our buildings and grounds guys do pick up the bags once they are completed. If anyone is interested in doing a little cleanup when they take their families out to these locations, just give us a call here at Town Hall and we can set them up with a location.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, we normally have one day out of the year in April, get a few hundred volunteers, and everybody goes out and cleans their assigned area. Obviously with the current situation, we didn't think it was a good idea to have one day for everybody to go out, but instead, give them the opportunity to do it on their own time. Either way, the job gets done and we appreciate it. So thank you to the dozens of people that have already participated in that program this year. Also want to just state the courts. When I say courts, basketball courts, tennis courts, and playgrounds are still closed and will remain closed for an indefinite period of time. I want to thank everybody for honoring that. It's, as I said last week, it breaks our heart to, especially on a nice day, you drive by and there's nobody using the courts, the playgrounds. I mean, it's just something that's it's heart-wrenching and eerie, but it's a must. So we do thank everybody for honoring that. In general, we have followed all New York State guidelines, directives, executive orders, anything that's come down from New York State, we have followed. Okay, so any operational change that we need to make, whether it's workforce reductions, closing of certain facilities, whatever it might be, that's what we've done. We had guidance on the golf course. We implemented that guidance and opened for a few days. Then the new guidance says all golf courses must close. So we followed that guidance. So, I mean, it changes daily, sometimes hourly, depending on the day. And we immediately implement the guidance and directives that are disseminated from New York State. So if people see changes like this on a quick basis, I mean, if you say, gee, I was playing golf a couple days ago and now I go to the golf course, it's closed. Well, that's because the guidance changed, and that's what we're compelled to do. I also want to thank everybody involved with the lunch program that occurs here in Clifton Park. Right now, we're only doing it on a delivery basis. Myself and Kevin Tollison went up to the county because we're doing things differently now. They're making, instead of daily deliveries using volunteers, the county employees are doing the deliveries and not doing them daily, but weekly. So they're bringing a lot of lunches and dinners to people at one time. Thankfully, they all come frozen and can obviously stay frozen till needed. But that program continues. The number of participants have grown, and I want to thank Councilwoman Wallowit and Gene Spiegel and Raina Manafo and everybody else that's been making calls to check up on seniors on our RUK list, or just our senior center members and other people in our community, letting them know that option is out there. Maybe it's an option they never thought to partake in the past, but now they're saying, well, under the circumstances, yeah, I do want to participate. So it's important they know about it. So we went up and helped load all the Clifton Park and Half Moon lunches and dinners that were going out, and we'll do that again next week. John, you're there, John Scavo?
That's good.
So we had some, and speak up best you can, that system we had there. It was plenty loud last week, so I assume it'll be just as loud this week. So we had some questions about subdivision on exit 8. And a couple of things, maybe you can just, there's been a lot of questions about essential and non-essential construction. And I know Steve Myers, the building department, also working at half staff or less on a daily basis. They receive a lot of calls during the day about codes, suspected code violations. They get those anyway, but they've increased substantially with people calling in about they see a construction project going on, or their neighbors doing something, or whatever it might be. I know Steve's been handling those best he can. Now, there are some elements of construction that can continue. Is that correct, John?
Correct. Under construction, utilities are considered essential business. So, for example, with the Eagle League project off of Crescent Road, right now they are putting in roadway infrastructure, water and sewer lines, and doing the initial grading during the fourth facility. There will not be any building permit issues for any of the homes. Because of the current conditions and restrictions on construction, guidance that we've been provided today, information available and clarification put out by Empire State Development Corporation, facilities are considered essential on construction projects.
Okay, so if they were trying to build houses in an approved development, that is not essential. However, the infrastructure work, water, sewer, stormwater, that would be considered essential, and they can move forward with that type of construction, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, there are instances too where if it's an emergency situation, we had a situation recently where somebody's house was damaged by fire. It was the demolition crew came in and cleaned it up, and they are in a situation where, due to insurance, they could be under severe financial hardship if their home is not built in the time frame that was suspected. And they contacted me recently, and I got their contractor, and they and the homeowner connected with Steve, and I think that's going to work itself out. And but that in that situation, it is an essential project due to the financial hardship situation, replacing a house that was damaged by fire. But can you also give us an update of what is going on with that subdivision project in the Exit 8 area behind? Generally, it's behind the CVS, and just give us an update on what's going on there.
Yes, it's served by a resident on Hiawatha Drive as an encroachment to the property. So I've reached out to Prime Engineering. I first reached out to Friday, did not hear back from them for this afternoon. I reached out to Prime Engineering. Jeff Tree, Jack from Prime, is sending out a construction inspector on behalf of the town to follow up what work's been done and if there's potential association or not. They receive that report, I'll share that with the appropriate county individuals and with the homeowner that expects issue that. There's an issue that homeowner and the adjacent homeowner, the approval was conditioned upon an agreement for landscaping behind their homes to help mitigate potential visual impacts from their backyard to the proposed subdivision. The builder is constructing the road and infrastructure. The road should sit lower than their property. I was told by the builder that once the utilities were in and the roadway was in, then we would have a meeting in the field based on actual field conditions of what we mitigated, and then conversation on landscaping to be agreed upon. If it cannot be agreed upon amongst both parties, I will remand the project back to the planning board to make that decision of to what mitigation is appropriate, for the landscaping. That, at this point, are the issues I had. Did have some concerns about a month ago when the initial clearing, took place from residents at Christina Maria Drive, the construction entrance is from John McKenna Way. I assured them that that is the case, however, so the, bridge structure or culvert installed over the stream that traverses the site, the initial cutting and clearing of the project site, they impacted the contractor for both ends, off of Christina Maria Drive to clear that half, and then off of John McKenna Way to clear the other half. I assured those residents, give it 2-3 weeks for the initial tree cutting, and then construction activity will resume, utilizing John McKenna Way. I've not heard back from them that there's an issue, so I think that issue.
Okay, and this is the residential project. Like I said, it's generally behind the CVS Plaza on Exit 8. It's the one where they had initially requested to build apartments, a couple of different versions of apartments, and then townhouses, and there were many different versions that required town board approval if they were to go forward, and we were not we did not approve any of those renditions and submissions that they submitted to us. So they strictly went by what was allowed per zoning and stayed with the planning board on that process. Anything else you want to add there, John?
Just, you hit it right on the head. I think we were plus 100 units of apartments, and we're at like 44 townhomes. At one point, the final approved plan is 23 single-family homes. There's been a lot of interest from residents in the Exit 8 area that love that area, that are looking to downsize from homes. So I do think that once those homes are being constructed in the future, the project should be built out pretty quickly, but right now it's just utility work that we do.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for John? Is that coming through, Matt? Is that coming through? Yeah. Okay. Couple of things. We just started bulk waste day collection today. Beautiful day to do it, right? Raining like heck all day. But, I know County Waste was out there first thing this morning. Did see them out there and picking up. They're starting in the northern part of town and moving their way south. Just a couple of things. Saw just driving through neighborhoods. I saw a lot of television sets and other electronics, but mainly television sets. We need folks to read that letter closely that you received. They cannot take television sets. Those need to be recycled. There's very few places that accept electronics any longer. The town of Clifton Park, we do down at the transfer station for a minimal fee because it costs us money to get rid of it. So we just try to break even. So, please don't put television sets out because unfortunately they won't take them. And I know that frustrates people. I also saw some tires. Oh, yeah. And, that clearly is stated in there. It can't take tires. And there was one full riding tractor lawnmower, which it will not be able to take either. So please just read those letters very closely as you get them. We appreciate it. I was informed verbally by the owners of Crescent Waste. Crescent Waste is a rather large private sewer system. It's in the southern part of town. The owner verbally stated, I haven't received anything in writing yet, that's why I'm saying it's verbal, that he plans to abandon the system to the town of Clifton Park by the end of June. So I've asked Michael Bryan the right of way to get an RFP out for to engineering firms for a map plan and report. That's the first thing we need to do. As part of that process, we would need to create a special district, and we'd have a public hearing and the normal process that we followed for similar situations. We've accepted several sewer systems during our time here at the town of Clifton Park. Back in 2000, I think we were responsible for about 100 over in Old Knott Farm. And the Water Authority at that time was helping us with the operations and maintenance. Soon after that, we had Dutch Meadows, Woodland Hills, and then the big one, CK Sanitary. They were all abandoned in fairly short order, and that's when we created a sewer department. We now have several thousand customers that we've been responsible for since 2005. So this will add another, I think, 1,000+ customers. I've asked the owner of the system to provide all the information that he has as soon as possible, maps of the system, customer lists, so on and so forth. So I'm hoping to have that soon, because having that information sooner than later will help us as we move the process forward, and anybody that's doing a map plan report is going to need that information anyway. So as we receive that information, we'll share that with all of you, and that, we'll handle it like we have all of the other systems. The good news is now we have years of experience in handling sewer systems, and from an operation and maintenance standpoint, billing, so on, everything involved with managing a large sewer system. So we do have experience. We have the know-how. We do a small staff that does a great job with Michael Bryan's leadership. So a new challenge for Mike. He hasn't had a challenge like this. And so I contacted Supervisor Tollison if he would like to discuss a similar situation that we have with Malta, where it's an intermunicipal agreement. Part of CK Sanitary system is in Malta, and Michael Bryan and his group handles the operations and management of the system, and we have an intermunicipal agreement. It would make sense to do the same thing here. It'd be kind of foolish for Half Moon to, create a special district for 50 homes. So I imagine that's the same direction we'll go in, and that will make it a little easier for everybody. So more to come. Also want to mention, and John mentioned John McKenna Way today. I was able to attend a 10-year anniversary celebration at the airport a few weeks ago, and the airport did a really nice job. I want to commend them. They had a dinner. I didn't stay for the dinner, but I did go to represent the town of Clifton Park and McKenna's Clifton Park family for quite some time. And John McKenna was killed in action in Iraq. We did name that road after Captain McKenna, and that's down off Crescent Road. One thing that Dan McCoy and the director of the Albany Airport mentioned that night is the effort to try to get the Medal of Honor for Captain McKenna, and I did lend the town of Clifton Park's name toward that effort. Sent a letter to Senator Schumer as well as President Trump that we would support that fully, and would like to see Captain McKenna receive the Medal of Honor as soon as possible for his brave actions on behalf of his fellow soldiers and the United States of America. So hopefully we'll hear. And now that was right before, the COVID situation hit hard. So I'm sure it will be a while before we hear on that, but certainly Captain McKenna is deserving of the very high distinction and honor. Any other communications announcements? All right. So We do have 3 resolutions. And I'll ask Teresa to read through those, please.
Do the window first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Skip right over. The other item, an opportunity has come forward. Windover Farms is a residential development that is being constructed off Grooms Road. It's something that's been in the planning development phase for, I guess, about a decade at this point, maybe longer. And the owner of I guess the gentleman that owned the property and then sold the property for development of the 24 homes. Is it 24, John? 23 homes. That he inquired about donating a large portion of land behind the homes. And I'd like John to give you all an idea of where the property is located and the situation revolving around this piece of property over the recent years. John, if you could just, it's raining like heck right now, so it's a little noisier in here. If you could just speak up best you can.
Sure.
Something new, it's raining.
Basically, this project lies on 131 acres, of which 68.96 acres under our CR zoning required to be permanently protected under a conservation easement. Condition of holding the land as permanent open space for food. Out of that 68 acres, there's a remaining portion of land not encumbered under density restriction. That includes 3 terrace field areas, if you will, that were created in the 1980s by Mr. Suffrage under a special use permit that he did receive at the time from our zoning board of appeals. And the terrace field areas, basically 3 primary field areas. 2 of them are on 10 acres, and the third one is approximately 8 acres in size. The area that the property owner would potentially dedicate to the town would include about 25 acres, because one of the terrace playing fields did lose a portion of its land in the subdivision. So there's about 25 acres that includes the remaining portions of the terrace playing fields that operated right through the late 90s. Under a special use permit, it was used for active recreation, soccer, rugby fields, various other field sports played on those at the time. In the late 90s, the land was sold by Mr. Suffrage as part of a divorce settlement to Lebanon Company, who currently owns that land. The land is left over as a result of the 23-lot subdivision from the Windover Farms project, and access was granted to the rear of that property through Suffrage Place, which is the primary street that's being constructed off of Grooms Road into the subdivision to serve the newly constructed 23 homes that Marine Builders has been constructing out there. In addition to that, I would also mention that active recreation isn't allowed use within the CR zoning district if the lands are municipally owned. So if the town to take ownership of it, at this time, we would be in compliance if we ever wanted to utilize those fields in the future, or any future administration.
How much, so how many acres are, how many acres did they, were they required to donate with the approval of the 23 homes?
Sure, they didn't have to donate any, but they have to, it's either donate to the town, donate to a certified land trust, or permanently deed restrict. Right now, it's totally private ownership, and they were required to do 68.96 acres, which has been permanently deed restricted.
All right, and that doesn't include this property.
It does not include the 25 area.
But right now, the total donation is more acres than that.
Correct.
So what's the total acres that we're considering taking as a donation right now?
I think it's the 68 that's permanently deed restricted plus the 2,500 that aren't deed restricted, that includes the field.
Yeah, it's at least that.
Yeah, so it's about 93 acres.
And I wouldn't really call them fields.
Correct.
I mean, you go out there, it's not like walking onto the common. I mean, it's a meadow, is basically what it is. So
Yeah.
I think you're giving people the wrong impression if you say there's playing fields out there.
Since the last 20 years, when the fields have become inactive, they've gone back to successional growth. So the first step in this area for successional growth forest is a meadow habitat, similar to if somebody's been out to Garnsey Park, similar conditions there.
Yeah, right now, if you look at the property, it's tilled. And so it just looks like turned up dirt. So that's what the owner has done. He has committed to planting grass, having the grass grow across the area in question. He will do the first cut once it gets to a certain height, and then dedicate it to the town if indeed we accept the donation. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. So, and we're gonna do something a little different tonight after the meeting, because I wanted to make sure we had this discussion as part of the record here with the meeting. And then after the meeting, Matt is gonna tape John giving a short presentation with a map here visually, so that way people in home can visualize what we're talking about. Right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, good. So it'll be great when we can all be together again. But until that time, we'll just have to come up with unique ways to not only try to disseminate information in this manner, but also visually. So after the meeting, after we close, Matt will tape John just giving a short presentation so people can get a better idea visually of where the property is and what it looks like. Okay, very good. Any questions for John? So I think it's a very generous donation, and there's many things that the property could be used for. We could theoretically keep it in its current state, and but cut it, to make sure it doesn't grow too wild. We can keep it mowed, we can keep it in decent shape that way, or at some point in the future, maybe do some minor upgrades. But for the foreseeable future, as far as I'm concerned, looking at the offer and the land and what it is, it is something that we can use for passive recreation, most likely. If you drive by the new homes, which are fairly close to the road, Grooms Road, you will, the property is immediately behind those homes and goes back quite a ways. So it is something for us to consider in the near term. I know the owner would like an answer fairly quickly. So please think about that and ask any questions of John, Tom, or myself as we go forward, and hopefully we can make a decision very soon. Very good. Thank you, John. Now we'll go to resolutions.
A resolution awarding the bid for the Clifton Park Highway paving and milling contract pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 103, whereas bids for the Highway Department's 2020 milling and paving contract were opened on April 1st, 2020, and whereas 7 companies provided bids for this year's paving project, and whereas Callahan Industries of Albany, New York submitted bids as follow. 6F asphalt top, $56.77 a ton. 7F asphalt top, $57.77 a ton. Binder course, $50.77 a ton. Tack coat application, $4.50 a ton. Milling crew, $4,000 a day. Milling crew, $550 an hour. Full road width milling, $7,960 per day. Whereas Highway Superintendent Dan Bull has checked references and recent industry performance and advises that Callahan Industries has demonstrated the qualifications and ability to perform the duties and expectations outlined in the contract for which they bid, and whereas Callahan Industries has asphalt material plants located within a short distance from Clifton Park, assuring projects are done efficiently and in a timely manner, and whereas previous jobs completed by Callahan Industries for the town of Clifton Park were performed efficiently with a high degree of workmanship, and whereas Dan Bull, Superintendent of Highways, recommends the 2020 milling and paving contract be awarded to Callahan Industries as the lowest and most responsive bidder. Now therefore be it resolved that the 2020 Clifton Park Highway bid for milling and paving is awarded to Callahan Industries of Albany, New York, at the prices outlined above and further bid documents attached. And be it further resolved that the town board authorizes Dan Bull, Superintendent of Highways, to sign a contract for 2020 paving and milling services with Callahan Industries. Resolution scheduling a public hearing to consider renewing existing term easements pursuant to Section 12510 conservation easements of the town code. Whereas the town initiated a term conservation easement program in 1996 with term easements issued with a minimum 15-year term, therefore, and whereas the first term conservation easements issued pursuant to Town Code Chapter 125 expired in 2011, and whereas on February 6, 2012, the town board adopted local law number 1 of 2012, providing for the streamlining of the process for holders of existing term conservation easements to reapply for the terms of their choice. And whereas 2 applications were received for individual holders of existing conservation easements to renew their existing conservation easements. And whereas pursuant to Chapter 12510C, the town board is required to hold a single public hearing on all applications for renewal annually and act upon all applications for renewal of existing term conservation easements prior to the finalization of the annual tax roll on May 1st each year. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby schedules a public hearing on April 20th, 2020 at 5:10 p.m. in the Wood Memorial Room, 1 Town Hall Plaza, Clifton Park, New York, to consider all applications submitted for renewing existing expiring conservation easements pursuant to Chapter 12510C of the Town Code, and be it further resolved, the town clerk is directed to publish appropriate notice of the same. A resolution appointing Paula Cooper to the position of interim zoning board of appeals secretary for the town of Clifton Park, whereas as of March 31st, 2020, a vacancy exists for the position of zoning board secretary with the resignation of Margaret Springley from the position, and whereas Paula Cooper, 45 Old Route 146, Clifton Park, is recommended by the Director of Building and Development to fill the vacant position. Now therefore be it resolved that Paula Cooper is hereby appointed interim zoning board of appeals secretary, and be it further resolved that the position be compensated $227 per meeting as budgeted to be paid from general fund zoning board secretary, and be it further resolved that this appointment shall take effect immediately.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. We'll go back and consider each resolution individually. If you can read the headings, please.
Resolution number 83 of 2020, a resolution awarding the bid for the Clifton Park Highway paving and milling contract pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 103. So moved. Second.
By Mr. Standard, second by Ms. Smallwood. Dan Bull, are you there?
Yeah,
What's
You
that?
are not muted.
You hear me?
Yeah, you there?
Okay. We went out to bid. We had a few changes in our paving bid, paving and milling bid. Down pedal on, back down. To better ways, our paving track money. So those things that we learned, we brought that back and we did our paving bid and went back out to bid. So there's a few new things in here that we haven't really done in the past. But our practices that will help to increase the longevity of our roads. So that's one of the reasons we went back out to bid. The good news is that the bid was extremely competitive, and one of the companies that I'm very happy that we got here is Callahan. Callahan is one of the bigger professional companies in the area that does this paving full time. They have 5 crews. So they're a company that can actually have 2 crews working in the town at the same time. The other good news is, like I said in the resolution, the asphalt plants are relatively close by. That means the project's not last so long. You get them done right away. One of the problems that leads to bumps and ruts in the new road is when you sit and wait and have to wait for asphalt from 50 miles away. So with 3 plants, relatively close, half-hour turnaround time to the project in Brooklyn Park, that will cut down on that. So, like I said, when extremely competitive, the prices came back a little lower than I was thinking they were going to be. Obviously, current economic situation is really playing into that, but for the amount of money that we're spending on our paving, milling, and resurfacing, I think we're getting a very good deal here with Callahan.
So, yeah, you do have more categories than normal. So, so the thought was to just choose one company across the board because some things that are higher, some things that are lower. But was that the thought process?
Yeah, that was the thought process. Oftentimes, when town board looks at our finances and wants to invest more in the town's infrastructure, which I'm greatly appreciative of, sometimes when those funds are given over, I have, sorry, I got this. Oh, sorry, I got the shirt on. So sometimes more money is given into the budget. So Callahan, having those 5 crews, are able to take it on altogether. A lot of the other companies that we work with have 1 or 2 crews. So this is, when you talk about big names for paving and professional paving in the region, Callahan Industries is the one you look at. And like I said, really the only reason they were very competitive is because the plants, they're using their own plants, and they just opened up Dolomite, which is up in Baltic Spot. So they're going to be pulling material close by. It cuts down on transportation costs, so it's really a windfall for us.
All right. So the thought was to choose one company across the board. So what did you do? Did you calculate? You took all the areas where they were higher and took all the areas they were lower, averaged it all out? I mean, is that something you can do with these different categories?
Yep, that's what I did. And one of the other things too, they came in very inexpensive on Finder. There are several roads. One you're going to recognize, Upford Road.
Never heard of
how that's kind of falling apart. The road base is pretty messed up. So we have to rebuild that road from the road base up. That's going to take a lot of binders. So we're going to be using many tons of binder this year, and that was a major player in that business.
So what explain what binder is used for in case there's people listening that don't know.
Sure, absolutely. Binder is a larger stone. It's just like regular asphalt, but they use a larger stone
in it, and that's primarily used for building road base. We put anywhere between 3 to 5 inches down on the road after milling everything up, and then we put a top course on, which is what your regular road is. So you're really rebuilding the foundation of the road. A lot of times when roads start getting older, there's clay deposits and wet areas that will develop within the road base and the foundation. You got to take that out, like rock. You got to pull out the rock before you can build the road on top. So, Ushers Road, many other main roads like that, we've been kind of putting overlays for the past 50 years. It's about, we're getting to the time where we have to rebuild the base of these roads. We don't have farm roads anymore. We don't have light traffic when these roads were first put in. We have real traffic, thousands and thousands of cars a day, big trucks, heavy trucks. We got to start planning for our future and rebuilding our roads to meet that need.
Right. What's one of the categories was full width miller, day and hour. What explain what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're driving up and down the freeway and you see those big dinosaur-looking machines with a long neck filling asphalt into the back of a picture, back of a truck, that's what a full width miller is. It's a very large machine digging down several inches into the road. The best part about all of this is that when we dig up the road and put it into the back of the truck, that full width miller is taking an entire lane of traffic. So it'll go one way down, one way back. Sometimes depending on the width, it's, maybe take 3 passes. But that's the milling machine that will take out several inches of road depth and put it in the back of the truck. That's then sent back to the plant, put through the back plant again, and we actually will end up recycling the road and probably buying back a lot of the material that's now been treated with the liquid asphalt to rebuild the road.
Right. So when can we get started?
As soon as I sign the contract, we've already asked them when to get started. They are ready to go as soon as we go.
So you'll be able to get started right away?
Yep.
Well, let's get as much done as we can as soon as we can, so we don't run into situations like we've had in the past.
Absolutely. And one of the other things too is after the whole state budget process, a lot of triggers were passed in the budget. So we have to keep an eye on state funding such as CHIP, State of New York, and Emergency Weather Recovery Fund. So at any point when the state budget director says we're not sure that we have enough revenue, we're going to start turning some of these programs off. That power was given in the last state budget to the budget director. So we have to use those funds as quick as we can in order to make sure we get what's allotted to Clifton Park before New York says, no, we're done with that.
All right, well, sooner the better. I didn't see Ushers Road referenced.
Well, it's one of the ones that we've been looking at, and we do have some funds left over from last year. And we were hoping to get by without doing it, but I think it's at the point now where a portion of it we're going to have to fix. It's a road-based issue, and being such a high-travel road for not only the Clifton or Country Knolls community, but for Southern Saratoga in general. It's something that we need to make sure is done and done safely. It's just, we can't keep putting the Band-Aid on.
No, I agree. The area from roughly Burning Bush to the tight turn heading east.
Right.
That's the worst section. And with the tremendous amount of development that's been occurring in the town of Ballston up the street there, and that being the quickest route to the Northway, that is certainly added to the traffic. So
Exactly.
All right. Well, I just wondered because I didn't see it referenced, so just thought I'd ask about that. But how much do we have left over from last year?
We have a little over $280,000 left. 200 of that I'm going to be putting back into paving. We had also put in money last year for several projects for slip lining. We're lining up several new slip lining projects to the tune of about $65,000. So we're going to be pulling some of those funds for these new slip lining jobs. The slip lining is fantastic. It's non-invasive. Pipes are very deep and travel under the very big roads or yards. So we want to be as non-invasive as possible as forward, and we don't see them.
And this is the infused process where the I don't know what to call it. The material, I guess, is pushed down into a pipe, eventually hardens, and you have basically a new pipe that's going to last for many years. Correct?
Exactly. It's activated enamel.
Right.
A pipe goes in, the pipe is soft and wet like a sock, and they blow it up with air. They put a UV light through, just like they do with a filling in Venice, and it cures the pipe, and we're good to go. We take the UV route because we don't use the forced steam or hot water, because we're often working in areas that empty into trout streams or stormwater systems that empty into trout streams. We go the UV route because that eliminates any type of temperature differentiation when we open that pipe back up, whether it's steam or hot water. We stay away from that, stick with the UV light.
Yeah, good. We use that up at the large sewer project up in Country Knolls and received great reviews there. We also use it with stormwater, which is stormwater systems, which is what he's referencing with that comment. So, okay. Any other questions from the board?
Sure.
Okay.
Nope.
Teresa?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowit?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes. Very good. So we can get that paving going as sooner than later. That'd be good.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Teresa?
Resolution number 84 of 2020, a resolution scheduling a public hearing to consider renewing existing term easements pursuant to section 12510 conservation easements of the town code.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Mrs. Standart, and there are two, an historical easement as well as a, we can say a open space or farming purposes conservation easement as well. So, very good. Any questions? Okay, Teresa?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowit?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 85 of 2020, a resolution appointing Paula Cooper to the position of interim zoning board of appeals secretary for the town of Clifton Park.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Wallowit, second by Mrs. Standart. Mrs. Cooper has worked with us before, and we are very pleased to have her back. So we welcome her back.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowit?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, any other business to come before the board this evening? Seeing none. Again, thank you, everybody, for all your hard work, flexibility as we get through these difficult times. There's going to be many more changes ahead. I sent a note to all the department heads again today, just thanking them and let them know it's going to be continuous changes for a while. We do disseminate all the latest statistics as far as known positive cases of COVID-19 in our county, as well as the number of hospitalizations. And unfortunately, we did experience a couple more people deceased in Clifton Park and the surrounding areas since our last meeting. So there's been 6 people that have died who were positive with COVID-19. So our thoughts and prayers are certainly with their families, and we're just working very hard and hoping beyond hope that this whole situation turns the corner definitively, and we'll be back to normal in the near future. So thank you, everybody. John, if you want to come in after we leave and set up, and then Matt will video you.
You
Okay?
need a motion to adjourn?
Second,
Second by Mrs. Steinhardt.
Councilman Whalen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard,
Yes.
Councilman Romano.
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett.
Yes, thank you.